How do you start your morning? Drug lord and murder enthusiast Dennis Allen liked to start his mornings by shooting up. You know, heroin, speed, drug dealers, prostitutes, gang members, police helicopters. Why just stick to shooting drugs when you can shoot up the Melbourne police force? Dennis Allen was born to future crime matriarch Kath Pettingill on November 7th, 1951 in Victoria, Australia.
G'day. Want a cold one?
Now, to understand Dennis, you gotta know a few things about his mother, Kath. She was a daydreamer, just like other kids her age.
Kath is an unusual child who has fantasies about death and evil.
And just like any good 12-year-old Catholic, she prayed to Satan that one day, when she was all grown up, or 16, she would have 10 kids of her own. And unfortunately for the entire nation of Australia, her satanic prayers were answered.
The first of her 10 children is Dennis, who will become one of Australia's worst criminals.
She was just 16 when she gave birth to Dennis. So when she moved in with her deadbeat boyfriend, Dennis and his younger brother Peter moved in with Grandma.
Had chicken pie and country ham and homemade butter on the bread. But the first fun thing about Grandma's house is a great big feather bed.
Spoiler alert, Grandma didn't have a great big feather bed. She was just an abusive alcoholic. Anyway, Grandma pulled a Bundy and told the young boys that their mother, Kath, was actually their big sis. And boy, was Big Sis busy.
She's the village bicycle.
Remember, she prayed to Satan for 10 kids, not a measly 2.
Of her 10 children, 5 will become notorious criminals.
But Kath didn't want her children to grow up to become ruthless, cold-blooded killers and criminals. It must have been the water they were drinking or something, because she did everything in her power to keep them on the straight and narrow.
I used to dress my children in T-shirts when they were young and it said, "My son the doctor." I never wanted them to become criminals.
But somehow, even though he was the proud owner of a T-shirt as a child, Dennis wound up being sent to prison at the age of 18. His mother was stunned. Was it her fault? Maybe she was dressing him in the wrong style of T-shirt the whole time. I mean, it couldn't have been Satan. She prayed to him every day. So while Dennis was locked up, she made a decision to turn her life around and set a good example for her 10 children from here on out.
Kath, now in her mid-30s, leaves her job as a barmaid and becomes a prostitute.
Okay, so she became a prostitute for a little bit. But in no time at all, she moved through the ranks and became a madam, running her own little business. A single mother and business owner? What's not to look up to? So after a short stint, Dennis was released from prison, and the next day he had one thing on his mind: celebrating.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
So he met up with his brother Peter and some mutual friends for 36 pints or so.
Pretty big, I guess.
But a party's not a party without a bit of adult entertainment. So they kidnapped a couple of girls and went on a 2-day crime spree.
I just know we were flying. Now, if you're flying, you're flying.
So they shot 3 or 4 people, crashed a party, and shot some more people. Nothing special. Just the usual things you do when you're on probation. And now, as everyone in the town knew them, the gang was immediately apprehended. Dennis was marched right back through the same prison gates he was released from only a couple of days earlier, now to serve a 10-year sentence for rape and imprisonment.
Jail is fun, and the food and stuff is really good there.
His brother Peter, the one who just couldn't stop shooting people left, right, and center, he got 14 years. At the same time, although Kath had turned her life around and was now a respectable brothel owner, things took a turn for the worse when she was shot in the face after an argument with 2 prostitutes. But don't worry, a bit of hooker spit and a bullet straight through the eye, that wasn't enough to stop the notorious Kath Pettingill.
Doesn't hurt. You go into a shock as soon as you're shot.
5 years later, in 1982, Dennis was actually released from prison early. And just like that, Kath and her son Dennis were like 2 peas in a pod again. Stevenson Street was like their own little slice of heaven. Dennis would throw parties and murder people in the living room. And his mom would supply prostitutes and help conceal evidence when the police showed up.
They were the number one crims in Richmond.
And business was lucrative.
Dennis Allen's drug dealing would make him a fortune.
Yeah, he was making so much money from drug dealing that he began buying up the entire block. But money can actually be a curse when you're a speed and heroin junkie. And it wasn't long before Dennis devolved into a constant state of drug-fueled delusion, sometimes staying up for 14 days straight. That's 2 weeks. 2 weeks straight.
One night, a police helicopter is hovering over the street when Dennis begins firing at it.
Wait, how the hell do you get away with taking shots at police helicopters?
He lived in an era that cops could not be trusted.
If the cops gave him shit, he'd just pay him off and move on. I mean, look at his face. Does this look like a guy that gives a fuck to you?
He was a man as a cut snake ever since I've known him.
That's Mark Chopper Reed, one of Australia's most notorious and fucking ridiculous outlaws. You know, the guy who hired a mate to cut his ears off while in prison? Never heard of him? Don't worry, I'm sure we're gonna get around to him soon. Due to his violent reputation and affinity for Mr. T,
A Peter fool!
Dennis earned the nickname Mr. D.
is such a very nice letter.
The D standing for
Doctor and dentist and dime.
death.
That lovely letter called D.
Not to be confused with his other nickname, Dial a Death, which he earned from calling friends over and then shooting them in the face at point-blank range. One day, in a state of speed-fueled paranoia, or as Dennis liked to call it, Tuesday afternoon, he decided that he couldn't trust one of his friends. So, he executed him in his living room in front of a bunch of guests.
Dennis went. Bang.
Now came the tricky part, cleaning up the evidence. He whipped out the old vacuum and just started hoovering. But when Dennis's mom learned what had happened, boy, was she pissed. Dennis had ruined her prized vacuum cleaner by sucking up all that blood and brain matter.
What'd I tell you? There's something stuck in there.
She couldn't believe it. How many times did she have to tell him that that vacuum belonged to her brothel next door and was strictly for sucking up semen and used condoms? Thump, 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 thump.
Still in there. Must be stuck pretty tight.
His next murder is even more audacious. The victim is a Hells Angel bikie named Anton Kenny, who is again lured into Dennis's house.
Yeah, it was Dennis's birthday, and he was throwing a huge bash. When Dial a Death calls you and invites you over, you go. I mean, what could possibly go wrong at Mr. Death's birthday party?
Anton Kenny is shot 3 times.
Did not see that one coming. With Mom's vacuum cleaner out of the question, Dennis had his mates clean up the old-fashioned way while he dismembered the Hells Angel's body with a chainsaw, stuck it in a 40-gallon drum, sealed it with cement, and rolled it into the river behind his property. But not before they had a little bit of fun first. Remember, it's his birthday.
Wendy Pearce told me that she actually came into the place with Victor Pearce while Dennis Allen was cutting up Anton Kenny's body. And Victor Pearce had grabbed one of Kenny's feet and chased Wendy around the house with it. So this was the level of madness they were living in.
So he should have gone down for this one. I mean, you execute a guy in front of a room full of partygoers, and someone's bound to talk. And eventually, the police did come knocking. But remember, they were in his pocket, so Dennis just blamed it on one of his guests, and the cops were like, okay, cool, yeah, sounds good. Keep out of trouble. But little did Dennis know, his luck was about to run out.
Witnesses to another killing agree to testify against him, and he's finally arrested and handed his first murder charge.
But this is Mr. Death we're talking about. You think a dead body and a couple eyewitnesses are enough to take down Dennis Dial a Death Allen?
Too late. Dennis dies in 1987.
Oh. Well, at least he didn't go out like a fucking rat or something. So many of these guys wind up turning on their friends and associates when staring down a life sentence, but not Dennis.
After his death, it emerges that Dennis has been feeding information to the police.
Oh. Well, you gave a homicidal maniac a license to kill. What do you expect? And that was the end of Dennis Allen. So, just how many people did he actually kill? Well, some say 12, others say 14. Not even his mom can say for sure.
I think I know about 5.
Some say there could be as many as 13.
Yes, but I don't know all those people.
I guess it'll always remain a mystery. So what do you think? Should Dennis have used some of his millions to invest in a heavy-duty shop vac? Should his mom, Kath, develop her own line of children's t-shirts? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to murder that subscribe button and click that notification bell, because I've got new content dropping all of the time. And if you just can't get enough, head over and follow on Instagram and TikTok for even more killer content.